Let's talk about how to pass the video interview for Arm Holdings. What's up guys, it's Mike from Job Ready English here with another video to help you get hired. Today we're going to be talking about the technology giant Arm Holdings and how you can pass that interview. As ever, if you want as much help as possible to pass your interview with Arm Holdings, make sure you check out the Pass the Interview pack down in the description below. This video comes in 3 parts. First of all, we're going to be discussing what the general recruitment process for Arm is, what were the most common questions that candidates were asked for Arm, and finally some other questions that we found really interesting. As ever, all of our research comes from publicly available sources based upon what candidates reported being asked and experiencing over the past 6 months. And unusually for one of our videos, we're actually going to concentrate slightly more role specific this time, as we found that many of the roles and questions around Arm were based around software engineering roles. So though we don't cover technical questions, and there are a ton of great resources out there for software engineering, we will cover some of the questions that you may expect to get asked, but certainly don't look for me for the answers. But we are going to cover what questions that you could come across. Let's jump right in. So how long can you expect the process to take for Arm? Candidates reported that it took about 2 months. First of all, you had an automated online video interview of general questions, and then 1 programming problem, and then a face-to-face interview. Afterwards, candidates talked about having an assessment centre, which consisted of a group exercise to test critical thinking, and finally a short interview with senior members. We couldn't pick up the timings for the online video interview, so we tend to work on the basis that you're going to get on average 2 minutes to answer and 1 minute to respond. That tends to be a safe amount for video interview questions if you're unsure of the timings that you're going to have to go through. So we've got 6 most common questions that we came across from Arm Holdings. These were basically questions that we found candidates repeatedly said that they were being asked. So we have had at least 2 or 3 repetitions of these questions from candidates over the past 6 months. So they're worth highlighting as common questions because it's likely that they're going to get asked again. Question number 1, what do you know about Arm Holdings? So for an in-depth answer and a free worksheet about why this company, make sure you click the card up in the top right hand corner. When you're talking about why you want to work for a company like Arm Holdings, we generally tend to talk about 5 fast facts. That's actually contained in the research note that I'm reading out from, which is part of the Pass the Interview pack, which you can grab in the description below. Now these facts should be specific and not generic, and it's really simple to distinguish between them. If you just said Arm is a technology giant, well, you could say that about multiple companies. But if you gave a very specific fact about Arm that can only be said about them, then this is what we call a specific rather than a generic fact. Now 2 minutes is a good enough time to cover sort of 5, maybe 6 facts. And I always like to say, try not to just list out facts. If you can relate one of those facts to something that you're interested in, it could be a technology, a programming language, a project, and so on and so forth. But it sort of injects a bit of personality about you, and also it doesn't just sound like a boring list of facts. Question number 2, describe a time when you have worked in a team. Now, teamwork is a common skill that's going to come up time and time again, whatever company that you're going to interview for. This is a competency-based question, so you're going to be using the STAR format to answer this, which is situation, task, action, result. So where were you? What were you doing? What did you do? And what was the result of what you achieved? So when breaking this question down, first of all, try and pick out what are the 4 or 5 skills that you're going to demonstrate to show that you're good at teamwork. Whenever you're asked a competency-based question like tell me about a time, give me an example of, all you really need to concentrate on is think, well, what is the skill that I'm being asked about? What is the thing that I'm being asked to demonstrate or I'm being tested on? So say, for example, if I was answering this question about teamwork, I talk about communication, hard work, listening to others, resolving conflict, being helpful, going above and beyond, and you can come up with a long list of skills. And of course, if you're in doubt, just pop some stuff into Google. 4 or 5 skills, the action part of your answer is where the majority of what you're saying should be. So really, you want to concentrate not on like where were you and what were you doing, but what did you do? What can you clearly demonstrate that you did that demonstrates that you are good at teamwork? Question number 3, tell me 3 of your strengths. Now, an easy place to get strengths is from the job description for the role that you're applying to. It's going to ask for certain skills that you're going to need. So, for example, if you're a software engineer, then you're going to talk about your programming languages or the projects that you've done, or your university degree if you come from a comp science or data science background. That's a relatively easy one to do. Something that often gets forgotten with strengths is that they don't then provide proof. Because remember, strength plus experience equals proof. So you might say, well, I'm really good at C++ programming. And then you'd say, because I made a project which did this. So this is proof. This is not you just saying that you're good at something. It's much like me saying, well, I'm fluent in French. The next thing you're going to say is, well, say something then. Tell me something in French. Question number 4, tell me about yourself. So if you want an in-depth answer to this question and a free worksheet, make sure you click the card up above. So tell me about yourself is a question that I always start off with clients and candidates preparing for. If you can do a good personal introduction, you can do a good interview. And it's really very simple when I break it down into its parts. What are you doing now? What did you do in the past? Last 3 years if you're a graduate, last 5 years if you're a professional. What would you like to do in the future? Where do you want to go? What do you want to work as? Summarise your work experience, summarise your extracurriculars and your volunteering experience, and finish off with your skills and interests. Now, interestingly, for software engineering, and technology is the only place where sometimes I deviate, I always say to people who are applying for software engineering, technology consulting and data science roles, you really want to lead with your skills. You know, obviously they want people who can code in a particular language, use particular libraries, have an understanding of certain methodologies, or have built particular types of projects or worked with particular types of online platforms, GitHub, for example, Kaggle, etc. So you can actually lead with this because this is sort of the most interesting thing, particularly if you're much more technical. Somebody might think, well, yes, I mean, it's great that you play football, but really I want to know if you can code in R. I want to know if you can use a NumPy library, for example. So this is probably the only place where I might say in your personal introduction, say what you are, like what you're doing right now, say what skills you have, what you did, so you'd restructure that one slightly. Question number 5, provide an example when you dealt with a difficult or challenging problem. Now, something to recognise about this is we really want to use examples which are most relevant to the work that we're going to do. So ultimately, if you're applying for a software engineering job or a technology related role, then you want to take something from that discipline. It could be from work, it could be in your hobbies, it could be something that you did during your course. A really important thing to recognise, and I notice this strongly with technical candidates, mainly from STEM, science, technology, engineering and mathematics, they really struggle to explain complex ideas in a simple fashion. And here's what I use, what I call the grandma test. So just imagining you're talking to grandma or you're just talking to somebody old. So there's no point talking about, you know, GitHub and this and that and whatever. You might say GitHub and you say, oh, Nana, basically when I write the code, it's somewhere where I can show it off to other people. And she's like, oh, so it's kind of like a picture book. And you're like, sure. But the point is, if you imagine the person who you're trying to explain it to, and you know that your audience isn't specifically technical, this gives you a really good mind frame to be able to simplify what it is that you're trying to say. And obviously, you know, a difficult or challenging problem, is good to define why is this difficult, why is it challenging? Is it challenging due to content, due to time, due to people, due to resources, and then how you've overcome that conflict. Question number 6, why do you think that we should hire you? So this is really a question where you want to dig into the job description. You want to say, well, look, you need someone who can do A, B, C. I have experience doing this at X, Y, Z. You need somebody who has D, E, F skills. I have experience doing it here, here, and here. So the more closely that you match up to the job description, the more of a attractive candidate you are, particularly if you're going through video interview software. Something to recognize. So I literally just went through with a qualified lawyer yesterday, looking at her CV and how she can change from one role to another. And she was kind of amazed when I talked to her about keyword matching. And it's kind of the same thing in video interviews. You're thinking about what are the keywords, what are the things that they're really looking for, and that's the stuff that I want to mention. So here's a couple of other questions. Why do you fit this role? Exactly the same as why do you think we should hire you? Question number 2, tell us about a time you encountered a bug. Question number 3, tell us about previous roles and projects. I'd pick two of your biggest projects and something that you feel really demonstrates the coding skills that you're going to need in that role. Question number 4, explain your knowledge on CPU and GPU. Question number 5, what are the main components of a computer? I'm not going to try to answer those questions. I'll leave that to the professionals. Guys, I hope that you've enjoyed this video wherever you are, whatever you're doing. I wish you the best of luck. Drop us a comment down below and let us know how you did. How did you get on with your interview? What other videos would you like for us? Please make sure you subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and I will see you later.